Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to talk about events again, and the reason for it is because I saw a bunch of comments yesterday talking about some stuff from the past to developers about the idea of bringing back old event vehicles or just bringing back old events. There seems to be this interesting idea that people are bringing out about how, in order to bring back the old event vehicles, you should bring back the old events that they were a part of, and it would be much easier to do. So we're going to go through a few things, and then also kind of give my personal solutions to these things, because some of the ideas wandering around are kind of interesting to at least talk about. So the first one is this idea of FOMO. If you don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. Basically, the idea is you put something around for a limited time, therefore people want to play it, they want to get access to it, and they'll spend money to do it if they're not able to play the game in order to get access to it. This is a standard business practice. It's literally happening this weekend with 3 separate premiums, which they've removed from the game, and they do it all the time. It's a bad practice. It's very anti-consumer. I think it's incredibly negative. But at the same time, as I said previously, a lot of companies do it. It's an industry standard, and it's a bad industry standard. There's a lot of standards which are designed to try and maximize the amount of money that a company can get out of people, which are not entirely ethical or moral, but at the same time, it just is kind of how it is. And even though we can see it happening, doesn't mean that it is right, it's just that it exists. Do I agree with it? No. Does it exist? Of course. The next thing about FOMO is there's a lot of people who believe it's a completely fine thing, and it's just how these things work. And if you want to go down that route, that's okay, that's fine. But there is one thing to mention. A lot of these vehicles are not FOMO vehicles, because they were around 7, 8, 9, even now 10 years ago, where the vast majority of the player base were not playing the game. So the idea that they have a FOMO for this vehicle, and yes, I mean the ones which aren't available on the marketplace, which once again screws over console players if they're not available. If they are available on the marketplace, console players still get screwed by this, by the way. But the idea that, people have a fear of missing out of a vehicle which is 8, 9, 10 years old at this point, and you cannot get access to in any different way. The fact that you have sets of people from back then who have those vehicles and nobody else will ever get access to them is completely ridiculous. If you're talking about recent events, fair enough, but the marketplace exists, at least for PC players, even though the console guys don't get access to it. There is a way of being able to get these things and all of that. But if we're talking about really old vehicles, stuff like the Tandem Mai, for example, right, or stuff such as the MBR, I think it's 2, or things like that, which just never seem to see the light of day again, and maybe they'll turn up every once in a while in a box somewhere, but it's just the fact that there's no FOMO there, because the people who want it didn't play the game previously. They are getting punished because they didn't play the game as early as other people. They may have not even been born at this point when you think about the way that War Thunder is, the age of War Thunder itself. And it's just kind of sad to see that happen to people. I would rather a situation where stuff was open to everybody else. The next one that people bring up about this is when event vehicles come back, or more modern event vehicles. By the way, when you think about Battle Pass vehicles, only a certain amount of them actually make it to the market. So even those ones, a decent amount of Battle Pass vehicles just haven't seen the light of day, since the Battle Passes themselves. So you either play that 3-month period, or you just never get access to certain vehicles. That is completely crazy. But let's talk about the market, because everybody always brings up the market, or not everybody, a very small amount of people bring up the market because of the fact that people like making Gaijin coin on it, because for some reason it's seen as a big deal for many people. I like the market in the sense that it means that people can get access to stuff after the fact, after events are over, and also it means that it gives people who are free-to-play players a way of making Gaijin coin and therefore being able to buy stuff on the Gaijin store. I think that's actually really cool. I really like that fact, and I really hope in the future it continues. The problem that I have with the market is, number one, it is not available for console players. So this conversation is already tainted. It's already void because of the fact that it is a rules for thee and not for me situation. And that would need to be resolved before we even talk about anything like that. I know a lot of PC players just pretend that console doesn't exist for some reason. No idea why, because they're a very large chunk of the player base, whether it be PlayStation or Xbox players, and they do exist, and they are, humans at the end of the day. The next one is the simple fact that people have figured out the market. Like, if you actually have a look at a lot of the more recent events, whether it be the most recent Build-A-Bear event or most recent events for the summer, the prices are just super cheap because the actual demand is just hardly there for a lot of these vehicles, and there is a metric ton of supply now because there are so many people playing the game. So the idea that market prices are even something that anybody should care about, except those small amounts of people who are trying to just jerry-rig people from these things, just kind of sucks. So I really, when it comes to these kind of conversations, I never try and take into account the market in that way, because of the fact that if we really want to be an absolute arse about the whole thing, what could easily be done is you just massively limit the supply of a very cool vehicle, and therefore the demand is going to be high for it, and you could just make a boatload of money on Gaijin's behalf, because they take a percentage of every sale. And I don't want to promote that. I think that's a terrible idea, because once again, that means that people get access to less stuff, which is never fun. And the last one, which is bring back old events. Bring back events where these vehicles were part of. Bring back World War II Chronicles. Bring back World War Mode. Bring back some of the old challenge events, such as the Summertime Madness event from the good old setup. So, well, there's a reason why a lot of these events disappeared. That's the first thing to say when it comes to this stuff. So the three we'll look at, and I'll leave links in the description to all of them, just to kind of give you an idea of what's kind of going on with them. There is a reason why these were gone. So, World War II Chronicles. If you don't know what World War II Chronicles was, it was a game mode where it will give you historic scenarios, and they were from World War II, and therefore it was specific vehicles versus specific vehicles on predetermined maps. So, for example, you would have a D-Day date, and it would be on the Normandy map. You would have America, maybe Britain versus Germany. And then everybody would just play Germany, because you got access to Panthers and Tigers, and the British got access to stuff like Cromwells. So, and, 75 Shermans. So what happened was there was a massive imbalance in the sides, so everybody just played one side. Or you were a person who decided to play the anti-side because you didn't want to sit in a queue for 5 to 10 minutes, and you would just try and survive with your skill and try and do as good as you can while getting blasted by superior vehicles. It was not very fun, and it led to people just only queuing for one side. Q World War Mode, you had exactly the same problem, where if you have two sides of a operation and people figure out, especially if you put a lot of kind of event stuff and a lot of, vehicle stuff behind one thing, if a lot of people figure out which side is the best, guess what? Everybody queues for that side. And if anybody queues for the other side, which is usually people who don't know what's going on, or people who, maybe have misread what's going on, then they just get clapped by whoever turns up and whoever decides to whoever is there. Like, and that's what happens. So you just have the people who are already in squadrons which are doing really well, all queuing up on the same time, all queuing up on the same side. They can't find anybody because there's nobody queuing up on the other one because they have, let's say, a 55 to 45% advantage on the operation, and nothing ever happens. That's what happened in World War mode, and it's also what happened in Enlisted, which is why the game was fundamentally flawed with the matchmaking system it currently has, but soon will not have, since they're changing to nation matchmaking instead of battle matchmaking, which is a big positive move. That's why World War mode was fundamentally broken, right? There was a lot of bugs with it. There was a lot of other issues with it. But if you fixed all of those, the game mode didn't work because one side will always be slightly favored and there will just be everybody queuing for one side, which is what happened, which is why you haven't seen it in so long. And when it does come back, it comes back in small ways to test certain things, and that's basically it. So you don't want either of those two events back because they promoted everybody and their sons and daughters basically just sitting on one side of the bracket and nobody playing the other. So you would never actually get battles. Cue another set of operations. So you know how we have like the summer events, and you know how we have like the winter events. Some guys or some gals may remember in the past that a lot of events were, you know, generally, what's the word? They were based around challenges. So it was like, get 10 caps, you know, get 50 kills overall, have a game where you get like 6 kills, maybe have a game where you get 3 kills, stuff like that. And generally there was 5 of them, you had to complete 3 of them, and that meant that you were good, right? Now we have like this score-based system, which if I'm honest with you, is more fair, but it's also way more boring, because every single event is just score-based now, whether it be stuff such as the Build-A-Bear events, the standard like summer and winter events, or even just the pages of history, or even like, you know, when they bring in any of these types of events. It's just, you know, get X amount of score and you win. Back in the day, there was these things called Summertime Madnesses. Now, these came out in 2014 and 2015, so a long time ago, right? A very, very long time ago. And what they were was hell. I don't know how else to put it. They were just all of the problems of World War II Chronicles and also World War mode combined into one to be able to get vehicles. This is where, by the way, the KV-1B first originated in 2015, and also the P-63A-10 for the USSR. The KV-1B being one of the most broken vehicles to this day, which they refuse to increase in BR, even after about 50 BR decompressions, when you actually think about how long it's been in the game. It just hasn't moved, by the way. So for the Madness in the Skies, okay, so this event went from the 6th of August until the 17th. And, okay, just to get, just remember this, just to get a P-63A-10 for the USSR, so nothing else, okay, just to get this, you had to also understand completing Madness in the Skies task increases your chance to receive the P-63A-10. So it wasn't even guaranteed. Wasn't even guaranteed that you could get these things. Okay? Wasn't even guaranteed. One day we will go over this on thing. I just want you to go into the description of the video right now. Go read the links. Just go have a look. Okay? Go have a look at how ridiculous this is. So you had how many stages? You had 10 stages over 11 days, and that increased your chance of getting the vehicle. Okay? The only thing you would get from completing all of these stages, when it came to all of these stages, all 20 of them, because you had to do air and ground, was titles. Just give you an idea, okay? So, Madness in the Skies. So to try and get the highest probability that you can get the P-63A-10, okay? Listen to this. First day, 6th of August. Destroy 30 enemy fighters whilst flying aircraft from either Japan or US. Okay, so 30 kills in a day. 7th, 60 ground targets using aircraft from USA or Germany, right? Remember, you also have the limitations on which vehicles that you can get, right? Tasks which require a team victory, you needed more than 60% battle activity. Okay, and there was also the rank stuff back then too. Then, August 8th to 9th, so this was on 2 days, achieved 30 victories whilst flying aircraft from either Britain or Germany. So, okay, so far, 30 kills, 60 ground targets. By the way, you have to do them on that day. If you don't get them done on that day, you just lose. Okay, you just lose. You just don't get that, right? So 30 victories over 2 days. Okay, on the 10th, destroy 30 ships. 30 ships! Flying bombers from either Great Britain or Japan. This was before naval was in the game by like 3 or 4 years. You had to find ships in Arcade Air or Arcade Realistic to destroy. You had to get lucky. What if you just got a day where you just didn't get any ships? Like, you didn't get any of those naval ships. And at the time in Arcade, there was only like maybe 3 maps which had ships on them. And then in Realistic, I mean, it was just like a crapshoot. So the 11th of August, destroyed 20 enemy aircraft flying an attacker, bomber, or flying boat. So you had to hope to find enemies who were flying these things. You know what happens during times where everybody is trying to kill these things? Nobody flies them because they're in stuff which counters them. So you have a day to find 20 people. By the way, this is harder than any special tasks. All of these are harder than pretty much all special tasks that we have, right? So that's that. Then on the 12th of August, destroy 40 enemy aircraft flying the Focke-Wulf 190 series or MiG series. So 40 kills in a day again. 13th of August, destroy 30 enemy attackers or heavy fighters flying aircraft to the PE IL-2, IL-10 or Ki-45. So pretty much just those against each other, right? You have to destroy 30 of those in a day. And then the 14th of August, destroy 30 enemy flying boats. Flying boats! You gotta find 30 flying boats. Now, luckily, in a day, they did have the floats event. So, you know, you could get it there. And then on the 15th or 16th, achieved 3 victories, finishing in first place at the end of the battle. And then on the 17th, destroy 30 enemy aircraft flying an aircraft from any nation. So, once again, just destroy 30 people within a day. That's 11 days. Okay? 11 days, 10 tasks, completely ridiculous. That's one side of the equation. Now let's have a look at the second one. Remember, that's to get a higher chance to get the P-63 for the USSR. Let's have a look at the other side. So imagine, okay, you're doing that. Now, you got to do the other side if you want the KV-1B too. So the first one, destroy 25 enemy ground vehicles whilst driving medium tanks for Germany or USSR. Okay, that's quite easy. The 7th, destroy 10 enemy aircraft whilst driving an SBAA from any nation. There was War in the Mid-Air event available. Yeah, now you know what was great about the War in the Mid-Air event? Basically, you needed people to play on both sides. You needed people to be in planes, and you needed people to be in SBAAs. Guess what everybody did? They all just went in SBAAs because they wanted to get the challenge done. So therefore, it was really hard. And you were sat there in queue times of 10 minutes waiting for some, nerk to go into aircraft. Then, on the 8th and 9th, destroy 30 enemy ground vehicles whilst flying aircraft from either Germany, USSR, or USA. So you had to do that. So 30 destructions in 2 days. Okay, not terrible. The 10th, which gave you the 4th task. Destroy 5 enemy heavy tanks whilst driving a medium tank from any nation. So you just got to hope that you just run into heavy tanks. Then achieve 7 victories whilst driving heavy tanks on the next day. And then on the next day after that, destroy 20 enemy SBAAs whilst driving an SBAA from any nation. Now, luckily, they did the rapid fire event, which was basically where it was just SBAAs versus SBAAs. Nowadays, we just call that War Thunder because of autocannons. But, you know. Then, the next day after that, destroy 30 enemy vehicles whilst driving a tank from the T-34s, M4s, and Panzer IVs. Then on the next day, destroy 20 enemy vehicles using SPGs. And then the 9th task, achieve 3 victories while getting first place, and then destroy 25 enemies, ground vehicles, whilst driving ground vehicles from any nations on the last day. So you had to do those tasks on top of the other tasks to get the KV-1B and the P-63A-10, but not even get them. Just get a percentage chance of getting those vehicles. And you had to use vehicles from ranks 2 to 5, so you couldn't use rank 1 vehicles. It was absolutely disgusting how some of the events worked in the past, okay? And the idea that we should ever have these events back is just nuts. People just weren't around at that time. You guys just didn't play these things. I did. They were trash, and there's a reason why we have the events that we have today. So we don't have issues like this. It was absolutely disgusting how these events worked. What you should be wanting if you want event vehicles to return is vehicles or is events which are similar to the ones that are today, but are morphed to what we would class as old standards. So if you, for example, for this event, you could add like bonuses on if they killed specific vehicles in specific times, but keep the mission score events. And if you got all the tasks done, you actually get the vehicle instead of the chance of getting the vehicle. So yeah, just be careful what you wish for when it comes to some of these things. There was a lot of challenge events which were really nice, but before that, it was literal hell when it came to War Thunder. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.